And I don't care what it costs to tell it. You must hear this truth, or else you will die like fools. And I'm not going to let you die like that, because the book tells me, son of man, if you don't warn them, I'm going to charge their blood at your hand. And I was told directly from the mouth of God, he said, if you don't deliver this message to my people, he called you his people just like the Bible. If you don't deliver it to them, he says, I'm going to hold you responsible for it. He said, I will back you up to do it. But if you don't do it, he said, I'm going to hold you responsible. He said, you have no one to fear. He said, I'm with you. Go ahead and tell my people before it's too late. He said, tell them that I will not say one white man or child or woman from America. He said, I'm going to burn every one of them. He said, not one will I save. He said, everyone is devil. He said, we're going to burn them. And he says, I can take care of them almost in the twinkling of your eye, and I can even teach you how to do it. And it's so easy after he said to me just how he would destroy them. It's just like that. And I don't care if you have all the bums ready to go in the wall. You could not fire one. No, you could not fire one. Everything just like that. And the book said, just in one day, the Lord destroyed them. I wish this thing would hurt. I want you, my friends, in my conclusion, to remember that tomorrow night, I hope if the good pastor will let me out here, and if he don't, I'm going to buy his church, and so that he will allow me to come out there.
He has now come in our midst. He is with us. We don't see him as a spook. Right. He is no spook. He is a live man. He's a living God. I am sorry that I have not asked you to sit down. You look so beautiful, and I don't want you to sit down.
A guest, and maybe he could help me to convey a message to you. He's my friend. I like him a lot, and I'm going to tell you why I brought him in and why I think he's important to the future of you learning about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And his name is Yosef bin Asiel Israel. Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
Assalamu alaikum. Man, it's so good to be back. First and foremost, giving all honor and praise to Allah, who appeared in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom righteousness and praise is forever due. We thank him for the raising up of that special one, the first begotten from the dead. I speak none other than the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Those two righteous names, I greet you, my brothers and my sisters, in the words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. Now, my brothers and sisters, it's been a long time since I have had the blessed opportunity to do Know Thyself radio show. And I have been putting so much energy into developing the live stream that I do on Facebook on Saturdays, working on certain businesses and other life circumstances and situations. But as you just heard when I played the beautiful voice of our beloved and dear brother, Munir Muhammad, may Almighty God be pleased with his life and his works. he trained me, he encouraged me, and during our beautiful time together, he developed me to be an advocate, a spokesman, and a champion for the truth that was so taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He knew that I was a son of my mother, Angel Muhammad, who was a beautiful follower of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but he also knew that I adored my father, Prince Asiel bin Israel, who was a Hebrew Israelite, the ambassador for the Hebrew Israelites in Dimona. And during my more formative years as it relates to being an adult, I went everywhere my father went that I could go, went wherever he told me to go, and did so representing the teachings of Ben Ami and the teachings of the kingdom of Yah. But brother, and I'm speaking of Brother Munir now, seeing the love that I had for my people. He's seen the love that I had for my father. He's seen the love that I have for truth and for scripture. And my genuine desire to be a helper unto my people. And because brother dedicated his life in the service of most certainly his God, Master Farad Muhammad, most certainly his messenger, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but he also spent his life helping and serving God's people, irregardless of their faith, their religious persuasion, their understanding, their background. If they show any inclination to wanting to do better for black people, Brother Munir was there. And so since brother spent majority of his life up until that point of helping his people and seeking those who were also in that frame of mind, he's seen something pure in me. And like he did with so many other brothers and sisters, he invested the time, the love, the dedication, but most importantly, all that he had studied, all that he had garnered, all that he had learned of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Brothers, sisters, he set me down. He said, if you are sincere, which I believe you are, about helping your people, you need this man. You need these teachings. And me knowing of the messenger of God, me knowing of the teachings of the Nation of Islam, because like I said, my mother was a follower and believer. I did not have a rooted and thorough understanding. And at first here, because of our conditioning as a people, if it's not what we're used to or accustomed to or what we have grown to accept as true, we somewhat reject it. But I knew that I was intelligent enough, even in my ignorance, brothers and sisters, that I would not turn down an offer from a man who wants to help me be a better version of myself, to achieve my desires and my goals. So I intelligently took brother up on his offer. And because of that, I understood, and I still to this very second understand the value of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the teachings that he gave to us, that he received from God in person. You can take it as Brother Minister Farrakhan quotes the messenger, or let it alone. That's up to you. But I am obligated to do so. And brother, that interview, that his last interview that he ever did before his untimely transition was with me. Now, I'm not going to say that in no spooky way puts me in no position of hierarchy, or he bestowed upon me the responsibility of carrying on his legacy. No. We don't do that, nor would I even dare to entertain that thought. But brother did say, as he did every time he spoke to me, and you got a responsibility with this truth, brother. Master your craft. Develop your skill of communication and oration. Become that orator that is able to galvanize and impact the people. Not speaking of yourself, not even speaking of me, but speaking of that special one who the world has tried to write out of history. And I said, because I understood the value first that it had had on me. And then now the value that I was giving others by using these teachings to represent myself better and to do better for others. And so and I'm speaking to Brother Munir, we're going to develop in-house Crow Media, which was going to be the expansion of the television show. And I believe the blog talk radio that Sister Akila Ali, another member of Crow, was doing at the time. And so I said, okay, until we have the studio fully developed, which he was in the process of putting in place, I want to show that I could take the initiative and start without him holding my hand. So we developed Know Thyself Radio Show, which was a podcast that I started doing on my own at home, which I'm still doing. The equipment has advanced a little bit. The technology has gotten a little better, but the root, the emphasis is still the same. And so though I wanted to transition to video and I wanted to do it in Crow, and that was another reason why we had a slight hiatus, I know that whatever I'm doing, however I'm doing, whatever the circumstances may be, I can't abandon this mission. I can't let my brother, my mentor, surrogate and spiritual father to me, though I have a father who I love dearly. That's how much this man meant to me, that I would still look at him as my father. I can't let him down, not in life nor in death. And so we're back. And it's a little different. Before, I would just do pre-recorded episodes, then I would upload it to YouTube, or I would upload it to Apple Podcasts and Google Play Music Podcasts and Spotify, so forth and so on. But the beautiful of doing live shows where people can interact can't be neglected. And we get to video, but what's more beautiful than seeing this magnificent picture of the messenger of Allah, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad? You can see me Saturday or whenever. This beautiful man deserves his just due. So I think we'll stay here for now. And then it can help develop the YouTube page. As you see at the top on the banner, it's going to be the name of the podcast, Know Thyself Radio Show, and then the episode number, and then the title of the episode. And I thought it would be only fitting that we title this episode The Reality in Which It Is. Know Thyself is Back. And you will see my social media handles popping up. Facebook, Malik Yosef. Instagram at Malik Yosef, Crown Prince. And YouTube, which you are watching currently, Crown Prince Yosef. Now, with that out the way, let's get to work, brothers and sisters. Also, like, subscribe, share. I got to remember to say those things because that's mandatory on YouTube if you want it to grow. Please like, please share, please subscribe. I was watching The Godfather of Harlem, and sometimes I am, as a member of Crow and, a student of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, we see the reality of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the true and accurate narrative always being withheld from the actual people and the viewing audience. Whenever any motion picture that has mainstream backing any small screen or television series depicts the Nation of Islam, and particularly the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, it is in a way that they try to belittle, whether it's intentional. I believe it's intentional, but for sake of legal purposes, we're going to say that it's not the case. Allegedly, that's the correct term. So allegedly, they besmirch, they belittle, they try to smear the character of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It's a smear campaign at the greatest. You write him out of history. You can't totally omit him, especially if you use Malcolm X. You have to omit him. So what do? You minimize his impact, his influence, and you make him second to whoever you're displaying for whatever the reason may be. And this was done with the Godfather of Harlem. And I was a little upset because I would think, and to my understanding, talking to brothers in New York, Brother Sonnet and a couple other brothers, Professor James Small, who had a working relationship with my father, Prince Isiel Ben Israel, who I knew did some work with Dr. Khalid Muhammad, and also was familiar with the Nation of Islam and its impact because he came as a member of Moss Incorporated under Malcolm. He is one who was behind the scenes to help authenticate a lot of the history and facts that is being spoken about in the Godfather of Harlem. And I was told by others that he made it a point that they wouldn't attack the character of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But yet and still, it is done indirectly. You make it seem that he was jealous of Malcolm, that he was behind the times, and that he was holding Malcolm back, which is just not true, brothers and sisters. And I'm not about to make this about Malcolm and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'm going to make it about what also incentivized me to get back on my job and do the Know Thyself radio show, because whatever people do, however they try to display the Nation of Islam, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and try to bring a lot of inaccuracies into the conversation and brandish them as truths, even though you put this disclaimer when the show starts that a lot of it has been dramatized and fictionalized for a certain effect. People, if they do read it in that quick second that it is on the screen, they disregard it once they go into viewing the show. And even though it is fictional, they look at as non-fictional because you're displaying actual figures that actually lived. And it's hard for the mind, especially one who has been beaten to the pulp like our people have, who've been hit with lies and deception continuously, to say that, okay, this is not true, but yet and still expect them not to see it as true, especially when all of the surrounding narratives support that inaccurate position. So again, White Crow TV was made, Munir Muhammad Show, Muhammad and Friends, so forth and so on. It was to give the unadulterated truth of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and to put him in a place of vindication in which he deserves. So again, Know Thyself radio show, where we make it our duty, our responsibility, our obligation to give you nothing but the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and to put him in his proper place. I had to get back on my job, brothers and sisters. I had to get back on my job. And so why is the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad important for anybody who is in the world today who may not be a Muslim, so to speak, under the more ritualistic practices? It's because the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, if you are black, stood for you, cared for you, loved you, represented you in the most pristine and proper way. Everything he did was for the advancement of black people. So if you love black people, irregardless, as like I said at the beginning, of what your personal belief may be, you must love the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. At least do your best to fight those who seek to outwardly and openly disparage them, because guess what it does? For everybody who believes into that false narrative about the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that's another person who cannot see the beauty and the glory and the brilliance of what he did for 44 prolific years, which was needed for our people. 2021, this year, with everything going on in the world, we're still saying we don't have enough black businesses. We're still saying we're not protecting our women. We still see the fabric of the black family disintegrate right before our very eyes. Our children are unruly. We're addicted to drugs. We're overuse and abuse alcohol. We're overweight. We're out of shape. We don't trust one another. We don't love one another. We don't do for self. We're still seeking the acceptance and the elevation from a society, from a people who has done nothing but to destroy us. And so we're looking around saying, where are the answers? Where are the solutions? Well, brothers and sisters, and I speak from the most sincere and authentic place, that man, that beautiful messenger of God, he gave it to us. See, you hear a religious language and your ears shut down. But listen to what he was saying. He said, hey, you're Muslim by nature. What does Muslim mean? One who submits to the will of God, one who seeks to be right and righteous. He said some of my best followers or believers wouldn't be found in the mosque, but out there in the streets. He said my job isn't done till every black man and woman gets a chance to hear this message. That doesn't sound like somebody who's a religious zealot. That doesn't sound like somebody who's seeking for self-gratification or pimping religion to misuse and abuse our people. That sounds like somebody who loves his people. That's why he had ministers, brothers and sisters. That's why he lifted up those like Malcolm, Muhammad Ali, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And those were just some of the famous ministers. He had others that was almost equally, or sometimes, depending where you found them, even more prolific. He helped those who were not in the Nation of Islam. Stokely Carmichael, who would later be named Kwame Ture, came and sought counsel with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He didn't reject him. He didn't neglect him. He didn't tell him to leave or convert to Islam before I help or assist you. No, he received him in his home and was there with him, guiding him. Dr. Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott King, hell, even Al Raby, who was in his house, he sat and talked with and discussed and built with. And we can go on and on and on and on. Again, I don't have to defend the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, though I choose to do. His works defend themselves. Only thing that I can do is point you to him. Why? Because I love black people. I want what's best for my people. So if I have something that I've seen benefit and evolve my life, grow me up, make me more mature, make me be a better man, make me be a better husband, make me be a better father, make me be a better son, a better brother, have responsible actions in my life, reject to the best of my ability all poisons that I seen that were deteriorating my life, This is what this has done for me. So when I know the power there, why wouldn't I share that with you? Why wouldn't I point you in that direction? You've never heard me come on any platform and can try to convert anybody to anything. You just heard me and will continue to hear me say how much I love my people and how I want the best for my people. And as pure as my desires are, brothers and sisters, as genuine as my love is, it doesn't even touch the fringe of the garment of the love that this man had for us in his life and even in his death. So, why would I not tell my brothers and my sisters of such a magnificent work in a time where it is needed more than ever? You talk about the image, and I'm going to speak about this on my show on Saturday, the live stream. But you talk about the image of the black man in particular, but black people in general, and how it shows the worst of us in so many ways. Whether we are displayed on television, whether you hear our music or any imagery, movies, doesn't matter. News was shown in a savage and inappropriate way. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad, by using identity of self, by knowledge of self, help us reclaim an identity that was respectable. He took the dope out of our mouth, the liquor off our lips, cleaned us up, had us in suits and long dresses and garments. When you seen us, we greeted you in peace. We were courteous. We were respectful. And guess what? We weren't weak. Because if you crossed the line and sought to do harm to us, we were strategic enough and militant enough to take care of ourselves. He made calisthenics and workout a requirement, FOI and MGT. He cleaned up because he understood our poor eating habits. He took the swine out of our mouths. He took some of those bottom feeding fish out of our mouths. Hell, he was putting us, if you read How to Eat to Live, book 1 and 2, on the path to vegetarianism. He taught us no meat is good for us. Eat 1 meal a day. You eat once every 3 days, you'll rid yourself of all disease. This is what he did. So we see that, and I'm in the fitness world. I guess you can say that. And we see people making millions of dollars off what they call the OMAD diet. Only 1 meal a day, intermittent fasting, this and this and that and that. And we say that these people are geniuses. They're promoting a health plan that is so advantageous for weight loss and overall regeneration of the body and the organs, giving the digestive tract a break so it's not constantly working and oversaturating itself, overwhelming itself. Said, oh man, scientifically, it makes sense. Spiritually, it makes sense. Emotionally, it makes sense. Because we know, especially in Western society, everything inculcates or involves a meal. You get married, we're going to have a big meal and a lot of food. You got a birth, we're going to eat a lot of food. You have a birthday, we're going to eat a lot of food. You have any type of gathering, it's going to be a lot of food. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, it don't matter. Somebody died, we're eating a lot of food. So we finally see this trend. But guess who started that? The most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Well, how do we know that? Well, maybe somebody else was eating one. I mean, I'm sure they were. But who made it popular? Who made it widestream, especially for the deaf and the dumb and the blind? We got to get that to the messenger of God, brothers and sisters. So, whether you're religious zealots or not, whether you are nationalists or atheists or agnostic or Christians, or if you love your people, if you love yourself, hold on, let's stop. Let's take it back for a second. Sometimes we can get so involved in for others that we lose sight of self. If you love yourself, brothers and sisters, if you value your own life, if you have the desire to see longevity, we ask you, look at this man, look at his life, look at what he's done, and to the best of your ability, try to implement it once it makes sense to you, once it holds value. But what we cannot do is say that nobody has come, nobody has shown us, we don't have the solutions, we don't have the answers. Where's our leadership? Where's our guidance? See, we don't need a person lording over us and telling us what to do. That's slavery. But the influence and the exampleship that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad still gives us even after his life is vital and critical and essential. And that's how you know that it's sincere, when you're able to do it without nobody forcing you to do so. And if you need strength, that's why environments like CROW, the Coalition for the Remembrance of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is in place, because it is an environment, it's an incubator that allows us to tap into, to have that energy, to have that example that we can pull from our brothers and sisters who are new into the teachings and who've been there 50 years. So again, let's not be like those who, as the Quran teaches in this 6th chapter, 111th verse, the 6th surah in 111 ayat. And it talks about the polytheist opposition. And even if we send down to them angels and the dead speak to them, and we bring together all things before them, they would not believe unless Allah please, but most of them are ignorant. Listen to that now. I'm going to read that one more time. And even if we send down to them the angels and the dead speak to them, and we bring them together, all things before them, they would not believe unless Allah please, but most of them are ignorant. Most of them don't know. But even when you give them the proof, and that's all we're doing. So we understand the reality that everybody's not going to believe. Everybody's not going to accept it. Some people find refuge in rejection of truth, because when you know truth, when you hear truth, when you have truth, you got to accept truth. That means you have to do something. And a lot of us, brothers and sisters, let's just be honest. Let's be frank. Let's be open. We don't want to really do for self, because that freedom talk, that doing for self talk, that's hard work. That requires a lot. You're absolutely correct. It does require at the outset, but it's just like anything. Once you get the momentum, yeah, the work is still inculcated. Yes, the growth and the development and the pushing is still a necessity, but it becomes second nature. You be submerged underwater for a significant amount of time that you're not used to. And then you emerge. Breathing is the hardest thing in the world. But up until that point, before you were submerged, you didn't even know you were breathing. But you see, once you lose that ability to breathe, and then you go to try to breathe again, it's like you never done it before. And that's the state of our people. I understand it. Because you don't know truth. You don't know freedom. You haven't been doing for self. It seems almost impossible. And then those who start to do it, it's like they're gasping for air, barely able to get in the breaths. But I promise you, if you stay immersed above water long enough, if you stay in the repetitious process of breathing, normalcy will take place. And then it will become second nature. And that's what we must do for our people. We must get comfortable again in being free and doing what it takes to be free and sustain our freedom and protect our freedom. That's what this is about. That's all it's ever been about. That's all he ever taught. That's all he ever wanted. And as a student, as a follower of that beautiful man, as a member of Crow, as a student of Brother Munir Muhammad, hell, as a student of all the co-founders, I can't leave out Brother Alif, Brother Shaheed Muslim, still teaching me to this day. No, I learn from everybody, but I'm saying, as it relates to the importance of Crow, those men take the standard. Shout out to their wives too. I can't leave out Sister Amina and Sister Shakira, because they've been with them every step of the way. And we understand, so teaches the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, no nation can rise above their woman. Islam, Assalamu alaikum. So, I say that again as we bringing back this show, and I wasn't going to be long because it was just an introductory, getting my feet wet, so to speak. Every Wednesday, we're going to be here doing our thing, 1:00 p.m. Central Time. Live on YouTube. I like YouTube. I think I want to move everything to YouTube. Until we get our own platforms, of course. But definitely share this message. Like it. Subscribe. So you can have continuous content like this. Especially for those who just love their people. That's all. I'm not going to come up here berating nobody. I'm not going to come up here disparaging. Don't sing or don't dance. I'm not no entertainer. There won't be any of that type of content. But if you just want to hear a young man who's growing and evolving and immersing himself in truth, want to see his people do and live righteously and right and free, and you want to hear encouraging conversations, this is the platform for that. That's what Know Thyself Radio Show is about. I'm sure on the channel we're gonna have other stuff. Like you said, you'll see what I do on Saturdays as well. You may see some workout or some diet stuff, maybe even some finance stuff. Hell, but it's all centered around self-improvement, self-sufficiency, self-governance, self-sustainability. That's what it's about. Anybody who's familiar with Know Thyself Radio Show know that I make it a requirement that I go into something that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad did and I read from. So I want to go to Theology of Time, though this was not a book that was written by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It is his speech, and this particular one does a great job at transcribing his words exactly into written form. So this is part 6. This was July 9th, 1972. And he talks about the reality of him being taught by God. And I know this is something that we have a hard time dealing with, because we were trained, I know not for everybody, but for those who it is, I'm just saying that we don't see God as being a man. We don't see God as having a birthday and dying. But yet and still we call ourselves gods. You know, we strive to be upright and righteous and to have power. And guess what? We concede to other gods in a dominant society, because though we say God is not flesh, we still honor and revere, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, a God that is flesh. We still, whether we're Christian or not, we have that stain on our brains, on our minds, on our subconscious of that white Jesus. And though we may reject it in the realm of theology, our psychology and our sociology still accepts it. So when this beautiful man, who by the world standard had no education, had no understanding, was unlearned and unlettered in his adult age, met with a man who had supreme knowledge and wisdom and gave him the understanding on how to resurrect the dead of our people, to clean them up and to do for self. Who else could we say but God, based on what we were looking for, what we were searching for? So we don't have to make it spooky. We don't have to make it far off, but we can look at the reality of what was done, the time in which it was done, and how it was done. So he says, God came to me in 1931 in Detroit, Michigan. He taught me for 3 years and 4 months in person. I was not dreaming. I was looking at him in person for 3 years and 4 months. He taught me night and day. I used to be glad to get a little sleep. When he would tell me I will be back, I would say, I hope it would be long enough for me to get a little sleep. He taught me what you hear me teaching you. 3 years, night and day. I don't think I would be wise to say that I taught myself and I taught you thus and thus. No, he taught me thus and thus. I didn't know anything. I didn't know my name. I was calling myself by the white man's name. So, whatever you hear me say here this afternoon, it came from the mouth in the way of divine. Whenever you hear me talk about a other, then that it was me, but the divine came from him. He taught me about the non-divine and who the non-divine was. I've been teaching it for 40 years. Think over that. I'm no boy. I've been teaching divine wisdom in America for 40 years. I didn't start when I was a baby. I was an old man, and I'm ready for you. I'm going to keep it real a little bit more. Today we are here and we thank you for what I have to say, or rather, I should make it clear what God has taught me. All black people are the brothers of each other. You have been told that all people are brothers. In the way of being people, we are brothers. But we are not all brothers by races and nations. We have a stranger in our midst, and that is the white man. We are not brothers to the white man. He is a total stranger. He didn't come from God that we came from. He came from a made God, not a created God. Our God is a created God, and we are created people. But the white man is a made man. And I'll stop there. But listen to what I said. First, he always gave the credit to who taught him and who trained him. Again, this wasn't a man who was selfish. He was selfless. He could have easily said he was the author of this information. He could have easily took the credit. He could have easily got all the accolades and put himself in even a more exalted position. Hell, he could have said he was God and people could have believed it based on his works and what he was able to produce, but he never even attempted to speak in such a way. And he said, he's not a baby. He's not no fool. He was a grown man when he came into this understanding, and he's an old man teaching it to this very moment. But the essence of what God taught him is that all black people are brothers of each other. And that's what we are emphasizing based on truth now. And if we can center our lives on truth, if we can reorient our thinking on being self-sufficient and self-sustainable and doing for self, brothers and sisters, there's not one thing that we can't accomplish. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the unity of our people is greater than any atomic bomb or weapon. I think it's about time, as the white man and the enemies of God and truth use their weapons, that we use ours. Some say we got to pick up guns. Some say we got to learn how to shoot and amass heavy armory. If that's your prerogative, go ahead. But amongst doing all of that, let's try this one thing, this one time, and see how it fares. Let's try unity. Let's try being on code and being with one another in a sincere and genuine way, and doing for one another in a sincere and genuine way, and clean ourselves up, clean our neighborhoods up, clean our communities up, and therefore we can clean not their nation, but we'll have a clean nation for ourselves, a world for ourselves, that we, through the will of Almighty God, will produce. I thank you for listening. Until next week, I leave you as I greeted you in the words of peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum. Will Crick, please go subscribe to Crow TV. Subscribe to Brother Jamil Muhammad, who's on Crow, Brother Mandine Muhammad, who does his radio show, and all the brothers who are lifting up truth. Again, thank you. Assalamu alaikum.